Broadcasting from the campus of the University of Tennessee, WUTK 90.3 FM Knoxville, WUTKRadio.com. This is Volunteer Radio.
It's time for Rock Solid Sports.
It's football time in Tennessee. Dobbs drops back, fires long for the end zone. The pass is going to be caught by Tennessee. Out by Tennessee, Jawan Jennings. What a turn of events. Give him 6. To the checkerboards. Touchdown, Tennessee.
Rock Solid Sports, the only show with a home field advantage for UT Athletics. Here's tonight's host.
Hello and welcome into the Wednesday night edition of WTK's Rock Solid Sports. I'm your host, Dominic Wade Throngard, all the way out of Boise, Idaho. On the stream with me tonight, got Mr. Griffin Hadley. He's from Indiana. And then we got Luke Lamore. I can't remember where you're from, Luke. Why don't you remind us?
I'm from Richmond, Virginia.
All right. We got Richmond, Indiana, and Idaho represented. These are all the 3 states in the union. Let's get right to it, fellas. All right, we got some big vol news up first. Huge week in the portal for Tony V and the fellas on the diamond. Hunter Ensley, he's going to stay another year. But on top of that, we got 3 transfer portal additions. 2 guys out of Ole Miss. Got a third baseman, Andrew Fisher, and he was the number 2 player in the portal. And then we got another Ole Miss guy, right-handed pitcher, Liam Doyle, top 15 in the portal. And then, of course, Eric Radczak from Niagara, first baseman who led the MAAC in batting average, OPS, RBIs, and on-base percentage. How we feel about this, fellas?
Yeah, this is great news. I mean, first of all, we're going to talk about Ensley. I mean, that is fantastic. That's a guy who's, pure blood vol. Okay, and he's coming back to help us out. That was fantastic. He had an absolutely fantastic series for us. So great news there. And yeah, absolutely. Tony V just absolutely licking his chops at these transfers coming in here. We had a number 2 portal player, Andrew Fisher. I mean, I'm sure we're absolutely stoked about that. 57 RBIs along with 20 bombs. You listed the stats. I mean, all these guys are studs. These guys are absolutely fantastic. We're going to get somebody to help the bullpen as well. And Liam Doyle, he's top 15 in the portal. 84 strikeouts and a good ERA. I mean, this is someone we needed because the bullpen, it was one of those things that we had a very well-rounded team, but the bullpen was something that we kind of looked at and said, we could use some more depth. And so that'll be a great addition. We also, if we can look at the first baseman, we needed, somebody there as well. I cannot pronounce his last name for my life, but these are all players that we need to fill in, and I'm excited. I'm absolutely thrilled about these transfers.
Yeah, guys, you nailed it on the head, and it's just the way this program goes. It's reload each and every year, and that's what got Tennessee to the national championship. It's how Tennessee won the national championship. But a lot of these guys jump off the page for me in a different way than years past. And I think that's because you get a duo from Ole Miss that has SEC experience. Doyle was the Saturday starter for the Rebels. He's played against SEC lineups. And guys, you know this. It's a gauntlet. We talk about it all year long. And then obviously Fisher, number 2 guy in the portal, starting third baseman, had over 15 bombs, 70 RBIs. We all know the numbers. They're all over Twitter. They're all over the internet. As far as college baseball goes, it seems like after the national championship, this news might have wind down. But no, it just keeps rolling in. Tony Vitello goes straight to work. He was spotted at the airport no less than 3 days after the national championship, because what he does is recruit and he works his tail off to make sure his team is going to be ready for the next year. And I want to talk about one more as well, guys. Louisville transfer Gavin Killen. infielder as well, played both second base and shortstop at Louisville. He hit 339 last year, 10 home runs and 44 RBIs. So when you think about the infield, you talk about the Niagara transfer at first, Killen at second, Curley at third, and now Curley at short, and now Fisher at third. You're going to lose your whole infield, and now you've reloaded the whole infield. I mean, talk about confidence heading into next baseball season for these Tennessee Volunteers.
Absolutely. It's more than just filling in the gaps. It's adding. It's incredible that you can have a national championship winning team and still feel like you're adding more power for the next year. Just Tony V's work ethic is truly unmatched. Like you said, in the airport, no more than 3 days right after the national championship win, and just recruiting right away. And it's proving to be more and more that that's what you have to do to keep a program at the top level. And the guy I'm most excited about for sure is Eric Radizak. I hope that's the correct way to say it. We're all going to learn here pretty soon once he has his press conference for the Vols, which I'm sure will happen at some point. But yeah, I mean, just led his conference in just about everything. And I love guys that come from these smaller programs and have the chance to play for something bigger. Think Dalton Connect coming from Northern Colorado to UT. These guys are hungry. They want the big show, and they're more than capable of the challenge. And so it makes me so happy when these guys come from these little programs to play for a huge school like us.
This guy's the player of the year in his conference. I mean, like you said, led everything, everywhere where he played in every statistical category. However, he is draft eligible. So this is the one guy that you might not want to get your hopes all the way up, because we've seen it happen before. Tennessee gets a commit. They might come in and play for the Vols. They get drafted high enough to where they don't actually end up in Knoxville. So for Radizak, put a pin in it. It's exciting. Could be a Blake Burke replacement. He hit 390 plus at Niagara last year. Just unbelievable stats. Would be a fantastic addition to the team. Hopefully he ends up in Knoxville.
Without a doubt, yeah. I mean, you said it perfectly. Coming from a small program, we automatically think Dalton Connect. But he's hungry, but we cannot, and that's something I didn't necessarily think about, is that, he could go, he could be called not to Knoxville. So we do have to put a pin in him, but it's exciting nonetheless. These are 3 transfers that, I think Tony V is absolutely ecstatic with.
Absolutely. And even though he might get drafted, bringing that attention to Knoxville is always going to be huge. But beyond that, I am really happy as well that we're poaching from within the conference. It shows that we're on top of the SEC right now in baseball, and that is nothing short of a miracle considering how tough this conference is notoriously in baseball. I mean, it was 4 of the 8 teams in Omaha were from the SEC.
And the last 4. Like, there was not an ACC team left when the 4 SEC teams were left in the competition. 2 SEC teams meet in the final. Tennessee eliminates Florida State, and then Florida, A&M, and what was the other one? Kentucky were the other 3. So when you talk about a gauntlet in conference play that, Luke, we talked about every single week on this show, it makes me confident that people get better when they play multiple years in this league. The 2024 Tennessee team is the example of that. Blake Burke, Christian Moore, Dylan Dreiling, Kavaris Tears, they get reps early in their career, and then once they become a sophomore, junior, even guys like Xander Sechrist, they become seniors, they can get better in this league. When you get guys that are in the transfer portal, you want them to be able to assimilate and build on chemistry immediately. And when you get guys from the conference that have already faced these opponents, like you said, Dom, it's even more exciting because they know what it takes. You know what they say, it just means more. It just means it's tougher. That's what it really means. And so the fact that they're already coming from the same conference, they want to join a team that just won a national championship, that gives Vol fans a lot of confidence and excitement heading into the year that they will defend a national title.
I got to say, too, that getting one over on Ole Miss just feels so good.
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt, yeah. I think Griffin hit it perfectly, and we want to talk about getting these guys in and building chemistry. This team has that without a shadow of a doubt, and they showed that this year. This team is capable. We lost a couple of guys, but this team is without a doubt capable of kind of fielding these guys in and kind of building that team camaraderie that we had. That let's build each other up and not tear each other down. And we did perfect with that. We showed it all throughout the World Series, all throughout the throughout SEC play, throughout the regular season. And so we're bringing in guys from this conference. I'm at a loss for words here. We're bringing in these guys from this conference, and we're able to kind of bring them in and show them the volunteer chemistry. And that's what I'm excited to see.
Truly. And I love that our guys too were actively recruiting in the portal. It's like guys like Christian Moore saying, come to Tennessee if you want to be a better player. And beyond that too, the SEC is just starting to become a development league for the majors. I mean, we've seen an uptick in prospects from the SEC going and having success in the majors. I mean, you don't even have to look outside the volunteer program with guys like Ben Joyce already playing for the Angels. And then, oh man, I'm blanking on the other name.
Well, Trey Lipscomb got called up less than 2 years into the Nationals. Jordan Beck gets called up less than 2 years to the Colorado Rockies. These were guys on the 2022 team, and they're already in the big leagues. Like you said, Dom, yes, the SEC is a feeder league for the majors, but the Tennessee Volunteers are a feeder league for the majors. Talk about the number of guys that have been drafted the last 3 years since that 2022 juggernaut team. It's just the numbers are outstanding. Tony Vitello, Josh Elander, Frank Anderson, they've done a great job bringing in high-touted recruits, and then they play well in college, and then they're getting their bag in the major leagues, getting signed. Chase Dollander's about to play in the Rising Stars of the MLB All-Star Weekend. That's exciting. I'm excited to watch that. He's also in the Rockies organization with Jordan Beck. It's just really cool to see the way that even though so many guys go to the draft each and every year, somehow, some way, this Tennessee team is able to find guys that fall in that same conversation.
Absolutely. And I think a part of it too is just how NIL has changed the landscape, and it's making it so that college is becoming a more comparable option to going to the minors. A lot more players out of high school, they're realizing that, hey, they can get their education in case baseball doesn't work out, because baseball is one of the most difficult sports to draft for. The majority of those prospects end up not doing baseball for their career. And so the smart choice is ending up going to these colleges and playing out and getting paid to do it. And that's what NIL has opened up. And I think that's part of the reason why the SEC is having so much success right now and why it continues to steamroll just everything, is because the NIL is infusing the sport with money. And so the top players, they're no longer just thinking, I need to make the jump straight to the MLB so I can get paid. They're starting to think, hey, I can go and play college ball, get a lot of money for it. Maybe in some cases more than you would make in the minors, but it's really interesting to see how it's changed the dynamic of sports.
For these highly touted guys, that's it. I love that point, Dom, because I think it makes total sense. And you know what it does to build on that? It helps the product. I think you guys can both agree that college baseball was electric this year. I mean, the first 3 games in Omaha were walk-offs. It's electric. It was so fun to watch. It was so fun to be a part of. Luke, I'm interested to hear your opinion, because you're now going into your sophomore year. This is the first year you're on campus at UT studying sports media, and Tennessee baseball wins a national championship. First major national championship for Tennessee men's athletics since '98. First major one since the Lady Vols basketball won in 2008. I'm interested to hear what you have to think as far as, Dom makes a great point, NIL is now the standard. It made the product so much better. And do you agree that, I mean, watching college baseball was just a blast all year long?
Without a doubt. And, coming as being, not really a Tennessee sports fan and just, hopping in and seeing, not only football and basketball, but, jumping into baseball too, because to be honest with you, I didn't watch a lot of college baseball before coming here. I was a lot of, football, basketball. Those are and then the spring I kind of just, zoned out. But, I really started to kind of plug in here and really kind of get to know our team, get to know these guys who are making these massive plays. And to come out here and see some electric games, not only in person at Lindsey Nelson, but in Omaha in the postseason was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. And so, to be honest with you, NIL has changed it because I've never seen more coverage in the media for college baseball than I have in this season here. And I've seen Vol baseball. I've seen, it's not just us. It's other teams as well. Big SEC teams are getting a lot of coverage in main sports media, and I think NIL has a big part in that.
To both your points, you're absolutely correct that the media coverage has just ballooned for college baseball. I mean, prior to hopping onto UT's campus, I don't really think I ever even saw ESPN, Bleacher Report, any of the big media organizations post or talk about college baseball, even in the slightest. It just wasn't there. But then NIL rolls along, the money starts getting more involved in the game. All of a sudden, you have this extremely palatable product thanks to the talent staying there, and then the money just being able to flow freely. It's becoming a huge thing. It's been so much fun to be one of the marquee programs of it.
You said it. The product is incredible. You have just an explosion of offense in the first College World Series game between Florida State and Tennessee, and then you have a pitcher's duel in Game 2 against A&M in that championship series. You're gonna get just about everything if you watch a couple games from every team. And there's so much offense, there's so much explosiveness, but there's also just skillful pitching and skillful defense. It's just this perfect blend of not quite to the MLB where averages are lower, there's a lot more games, it's kind of a tougher watch in the regular season, to you're more passionate about your fan bases because it's either your alma mater or it's it's schools, and the players just care so much, and you can read it on their faces. But Dom, I'm interested if you caught it. Tony Vitello had the rant of the century after the loss to Evansville in the Supers. We've all seen the video, the press conference. What he said in the midst of his 7 minutes of talking about Noah Webster and his dictionary and defining success and all of those good nuggets is he said, college baseball is different the last several years, and you might not have liked that 2022 team, but you watched them. And you watched them, and college baseball grew. And I think Tennessee baseball has brought people in, whether they're the villains or they're, the juggernaut or whatever it is. Tennessee baseball has brought people in, and now the product is just so incredible. The media coverage is growing. I think we're in for a treat with NIL because the more impressive players that join the sport, the better product we're going to have, the more and more it's going to grow.
Undoubtedly. It's like in the WWE, how they had the Attitude Era. That's what it feels like college baseball's in right now, with the Vols leading the charge in that department. Just super expressive team. And I love that Tony contributes to that and encourages it, because so much of the college game, like you said, you can read the players' emotions on their face. So much of what makes college sports truly better than pros, in my mind, in my heart, is that the players, they're emotional, and it just makes volatile games. Like, it can go, baseball already is a sport that can flip on a dime and change the outcome entirely with one swing of a bat. One little slip up changes the game entirely. In college, that is amplified so much because these are young men learning composure, learning how to stay cool under pressure. Everything is just, it's bigger. It is so much fun to watch. But changing pace a little bit, still Vol news, more college football 25 hype is building. And our very own James Pierce Jr., number 4 overall player in the game. So that is definitely something I'm excited about. I've been waiting for that game for over a decade. I'm really pumped for it.
As we all have. I know, I would just run NCAA 14 on the 360, and that was well after 2015, 2013, 2014 when it came out. I remember over COVID, my brothers and I rediscovered that game, and now it's just so exciting that with NIL we got a new game, and it's a level up because the players' names are in it, the personalized fan posted and Kirk Street is kind of teased, but this game is so exciting and it's so cool for college sports. And I sent Dom a text pre-show because James Pierce, Tennessee football, he is the number 4 ranked player in the entire game. And people are saying that if he has another good season, he could be the first player off the board come next April. And that's a pretty big deal because that would be a shift for Josh Heupel. Obviously, he goes from his first season and then he achieves number 1. He beats Alabama in his second year. And then his third year is a little lackluster, but it's good. Has a huge win against Iowa in the Cheez-It Bowl. But if he achieves that number 1 draft pick or top 3 draft pick, that's just another level. And it starts with the hype of this game. And I think it's really fun to think about. I hope it's not too much pressure for just James Pierce, who just is a college athlete. He's just a regular guy, just a kid in school. But man, is it exciting on this campus to know that you have a stud coming off the edge that's going to be chasing around other SEC quarterbacks.
Absolutely. I don't think he was talked about enough during this football season. He was one of our premier players, and he didn't get a whole lot of coverage, respectfully. But when I saw that, I mean, that is just fantastic news for James Pierce Jr. I like how you mentioned the pressure, Griffin, because that's not really talked about with this game. There's so much hype surrounding it. There's so much animosity with this game. Finally, after 10 years, we get it. Well, we haven't seen this before. There's these ratings that are attributed to these players. These players have the game. They have opted into the game. They're getting their $500 in the copy. You bet they're playing it, and they see the rating that they get from EA. And so whether that plays a part into their mental performance in this upcoming football season, it's a big thing to talk about. And so I'm really excited to, first of all, play as Tennessee in this game. It's going to be fantastic, but it's going to be interesting to see kind of, first of all, how James Pierce Jr. performs, because if he has a fantastic, obviously, max outlook is he's going to be the number 1 pick. But I mean, besides that, where is he going to go in the draft is an interesting question, obviously. But he's just an absolute powerhouse. He is, he's the guy that's going to get the sacks this season. I'm going to call that right now. He's going to be, one of our leading guys in sacks without a doubt. But I'm really anxious to kind of see, how these players react to the ratings when they actually start playing football again.
I like that angle on it for sure, especially because I don't know about you guys, but a lot of times video games help me learn the names of players so much more than anything else.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And so with that, now all of a sudden you're going to have a lot of fans who know your name, and they're going to be screaming at you from the stands. And there's this whole new level of pressure when you're in a video game and people know you. Like people are going to be seeking you out on Twitter saying, "Oh, I scored a touchdown with you. Oh, why'd you drop the ball? Why'd you fumble it? Why are you the worst player in the world?" Like that type of stuff is going to happen. It's going to be way more pressure than these college athletes have ever had to deal with. But I got to cut it to a break real quick. You're listening to WTK 90.3 The Rock.
Volunteer radio support.
The Rock support field house of fun and red factor. Right on
The Rock thanks to UT Athletic Department for their support. The 2024 football halls will play home games inside Gillen Stadium against SEC rivals Florida, Alabama, Kentucky, and others. Allballs.com for the link in the UT.com. UT student ticket is at BigOrangeTickets.uta.edu. The Rock says, "Go Balls."
WUTK thanks the UT Athletic Department and the Lady Vols volleyball program for their support, and we wish Coach Watt and the team good luck for the upcoming 2024 season this fall. Lady Vols volleyball season tickets are on sale now with home games against Florida, Kentucky, South Carolina, and others. Student ticket info is at bigorangetickets.utk.edu. That's TIX. General public tickets, including season tickets, are at allvols.com.
The Rockers support locally owned Hard Knocks, where they work with Hard Knocks is found in 3 different cities, North, Central, and West. Hard Knocks offers up to 20 different types of pizza, fresh ingredients and sauces and names. Open Tuesday through Sunday at all hours. Neapolitan pizza that packs. HardKnocksPizza.com.
Knoxville, be sure to tune in Wednesday nights from 8 until 10 for the alternative, featuring 2 hours of the best of Americana music. The station that first brought Knoxville music 5 days from back in the old country days. Like Green on Red, the Flyers, the Jayhawks, Uncle Tupelo and Jason and the Scorchers, the 90s Americana, like the Awards, Whiskey County, Gilligan Welch, Wilco and others. Modern-day Americana musicians like Marco Price, Zach Bryan, Tyler Childers, from Black Tribbles and Charlie Brockett. You'll also get classic Americana like Lucinda Williams, the Lion Burrito Brothers and the Birds. And there's local Americana by Army Morris, Brewster Chillers, Trisha G. Ray, a Yuki artist and others. There's always classic by 9 and 10 fishing from Whiskey and Commercial. That's upcoming Americana concerts in the area. So, as Americana music makes your musical talk TikTok, tune in Wednesday nights at 8 for the alternative. Sponsored by Boyd, Virginia Real, Blizzard, and Bliss Up. And only on 90.3 The Rock. Follow the run.
Welcome back into Rock Solid Sports on WUTK 90.3 The Rock. We're talking some NBA Summer League now, alongside some WNBA news. We got Summer League action in the NBA going on, and getting some look at the top talent as well. We got our own boys doing things in the Summer League. Dalton Connect, 12 points. Rough shooting night, however, 3 of 12, 5 of 9 at the line. Got a highlight dunk, though. Super fun to watch in his debut for the Lakers, playing professional ball. Just incredible to see him out there. Santiago Vescovi as well, making his Summer League debut. No points for him, but 3 boards and 3 assists in a Warriors win. How are we feeling about our boys in the league?
Well, I think the thing that people look at most here is, DK had a little bit of a cold start with the Lakers, and I think that it's hard to judge a player not only in Summer League but right out of college as well. You're looking at a different pace of play. You're looking at transitioning from collegiate athletics to pro athletics. So you're playing against different people. It's a different whole set of game plan. You're looking at different teammates, so it's going to be difficult for him to adjust. But I don't think he's got to be worried at all. I don't think anybody else is really worried. He's got plenty of Summer League left to play. He's a fantastic player. We've known this. We've seen him play for the Vols. We know what he's capable of. He even had a highlight dunk. You mentioned it. That's what he does best, is slam it down when he has the opportunity. So I don't think there's anything really to worry about with DK. He's just got to get out there and get some more reps. I think that's the key to and the solution there. Vescovi, he played well. He went out there. Sure, he didn't score, but he had, I think, 3 assists and a couple of rebounds or something like that. He's making a difference. Again, he's coming from a different kind of a program, a different team. It's a different ball game. Is my point. It's a different kind of flow of pace, and so I think we have to cut these guys some slack a little bit and let them adjust.
Yeah, I think with Dalton Connect, he just has to get reacclimated, and I think with him, it never really stopped. Like, he didn't really get that much of a break, and it seemed like he rolled all season long into March Madness, and they made a deep run, and then it's straight into draft prep. And I know there's a big break between the last week in March to the draft in June or beginning of July. However, he was doing workouts in dealing with press and dealing with the combine. That's a lot, especially for a guy who played at Northern Colorado just a year ago. He went from being a mid-major guy, a guy who wasn't in the media, to having a star-studded year at Tennessee, getting drafted in the top 20 of the NBA draft, and not only to any team, to the Los Angeles Lakers, who also drafted LeBron James Jr. Talk about media coverage galore. I think he'll find his swagger as he always does. Summer League is such a small sample size where you don't get that many shots up, and if you do get them up, how high quality are they? The looks. I just think that Dalton Connect just needs some time, needs a larger sample size than one game. Obviously, he wasn't able to connect for in that first game, but he needs to just, slow down, do his thing, and if he plays Dalton Connect's brand of basketball, not concerned at all. I think he'll be great. He'll be a great fit for the Lakers. Obviously, he's playing on the Summer League team, so it's not realistic of the great NBA players who he will have the chance to play with come the regular season. All that being said, not concerned one bit, just excited to see him hoop some more.
Not concerned are the words I'm sticking with too. I really think this was honestly a great Summer League performance as far as Summer League performances go. You never see the guys who truly end up being great in the league lighting it up to a miraculous extent in Summer League. With his Summer League debut, you saw all the raw talent there and all the potential. And he does the right things. It's just sometimes the shots don't fall. Weren't falling for him that night, and he'll just continue to get more and more professional experience. And that's why the Summer League is so vital. But people who have been lighting up the Summer League at least a little. Zach Edey, 14 points, 15 boards, and 4 blocks in his Summer League debut. Do we think he is any more or less legit than you previously thought?
I think he's, coming off the March Madness run where I couldn't have hated anybody anymore. I mean, just really, really grinding my gears. It's hard for me to, say, is he the real deal or not right now? But I will say it is impressive to come off, not playing since March and coming off of all of this media. He's getting around the same media coverage as Connect, maybe a little less. But look, it's impressive regardless. But to me, it always falls back on, he's, 7'4" and, 7, whatever he is. He's tall. He's a giant. And, he's playing on a mini hoop. And that's always going to be the thing that runs around in my head. But it's impressive. I'll give him that. And I think the NBA scouts are looking at that. And this is a different level of play. And so it's more comparable for them to say, okay, let's pull the trigger on this guy. So bottom line is I think he's looking good. He's looking very impressive, but still I have a deep hatred for him.
Yeah, he was hard to watch in the postseason tournament. It was a very interesting reaction from Memphis Grizzlies fans when he was drafted so high. And so now it's kind of like, let's see what happens. And in the opposite way I talked about Dalton Connect, or maybe just a different angle, I need to see more. I need to see a larger sample size because he was able to bully people in college ball. He was bigger, he was stronger, he had more finesse, was able to pass. He was able to control the narrative. In the NBA Summer League, Zach Edey can control the narrative. He can get 15 rebounds against these guys that have been in the G League for 4 or 5 years and they're trying to make NBA rosters. He can score more points than these bigs in the G League who went undrafted or are trying to make a roster. Zach Edey isn't trying to make a roster. He's a lottery guy and he's 7'4", right? And so the guy's 300 pounds. He's going to be able to do what he wants in the Summer League. Opposite to what I think Dalton Connect is, where I think he's going to be able to do his thing in the NBA because he can shoot the rock, he can dribble, he can pass well. I think he'll play well around other people. Zach Edey is going to be a guy that might deal with a little, adversity in the league because there's people at his size or right around his size that are knocking down the three, getting up and down the court a little faster. That's not a concern in Summer League. And so, yes, did he go for 14 and 15? Will he maybe be the Summer League MVP? Wouldn't be surprised by that. But will he be able to jump in and play with the big boys, hang with the big fish when it comes regular season? That's what I'm interested in because I think the style of play is going to be a lot different. I think Summer League is more comparative what he's used to. In the NBA, the high speeds, the high ability of shooting. Now that's going to be a change for Zach Edey, and I'm excited to see what happens when there's a larger sample size.
I'm excited to see what happens as well, and I'm still a little on the fence about him myself, but I'll undoubtedly lean the side of the way the modern NBA game is played at the highest level. Lateral quickness is one of the biggest determinants of will you be able to succeed in the league. Does Zach Edey have lateral quickness? No. Will he succeed in the league? I don't think so. Because no matter how tall you are, no matter how good you can sit under the rim, you need to be able to do a lot more in the modern NBA. We don't have big men who are just big men anymore. As a big man, you're expected to be able to put the ball on the floor from time to time. You're expected to be able to pass the ball. You're expected to be able to guard the 1, the 2 when you need to, not for long, but when you need to make those switches, you need to be able to guard at least briefly. And Zach Edey he would have been great if this was perhaps the 2000s, maybe even the 90s, just because his raw size, his raw power. I mean, the guy is 300 pounds. But in this modern era of finesse, where the 3 ball means everything, he's not going to be able to step quick to the line. I don't see him becoming anything more than an 8th option on a roster. I think his ceiling is being a backup center. I don't see him doing anything in the league. But moving onward, Jonte Porter, we all know about him with the gambling scandal, bench player for the Toronto Raptors. He pled guilty to a federal conspiracy charge, and he's now free on a $250,000 bond with his sentencing trial set for December 18th. Just a scandal that shook the league in its entirety, and seeing him plead guilty, it's really interesting to see just the way this might affect professional sports as a whole. What are your guys' takes on it?
Well, this is blunt, but I mean, he's just an absolute idiot. What was he thinking? Like, let me check myself into the game, tell my coach I'm sick, and then leave? Like, was he really gonna? And he's calling guys and saying, "Oh yeah, well take the under on me." Like, it's just dumb. It's just dumb. You can't do that. We figured that out with the likes of Pete Rose and some of these other scandals. There's a great documentary on Netflix about Arizona State. They were point shaving back in the 90s. We've seen it since the dawn of gambling. And sure, we can look at it and say there's a lot more gambling opportunities these days. But Jonte Porter, he would have been suspended back with Pete Rose if he did that. It's just dumb. And sure, there's a lot of different. We're seeing it more and more. Calvin Ridley. These guys are gambling on themselves. Some of them are gambling on themselves, but some are gambling on other things. It's one of those things where if you're not gambling on your sport, does it really matter? But at the same time, you're also an athlete. I'm very on the fence about that, but you cannot bet on yourself. That is just, I mean, I can't, and you're going to toss away your NBA career for, I think it was like something like $60,000. It's less than your contract. It's dumb. It's really dumb.
It's hard to consume. It's hard to think about, just because I don't think there's very many things that are better than live sports. And you guys can correct me, but the excitement and just the overall authenticity of the game, whether it's college athletics or whether it's professional sports, just the authenticity of a team battling as hard as they can against another team, or even an individual racing or competing against another individual. There's just nothing like the electricity of live sports. It's just so fun to be a part of, to watch, to cover. And so when the integrity of live sports is impacted, that's the hard part. And that's the part that really gets on my nerves. That's the part that, makes my chest tight, because it's upsetting to think about, because what we love so much, what so many people love so much, is just the pureness of the game. It's what Adam Silver loves so much, and that's why he's so upset. And so I think all of that to say, it's hard to think about what Porter did or the thought process he might have had, but that's the day and age we're in, where it's so acceptable, or rather accessible, for many people to bet, many people to gamble. and this isn't an anti-sports gambling, statement from me. It's just, if you're in it, don't do it. Like, I know I can't gamble as a student athlete because I could have insider information about any sport on Tennessee's campus because I eat lunch in the same room as football, or I eat breakfast in the same room as basketball. And they could be talking about how their buddy has a bum knee. And then, if I go gamble on it, that's not fair. That's not okay. Just because I swim doesn't mean that gambling can't be affected in many different areas. Same thing with these professional athletes. If you don't think they're all friends, then you don't understand professional sports. And so that's why I think, why are you guys, like, if you're listening, why are you guys talking about it on student radio? Well, sports gambling is everywhere. It's everywhere. It's so accessible. And I think there's a trickle down effect with it. And so I think it's very interesting to think about, talk about. I don't think there's anything wrong with it if you do it for fun, you do it with your friends, and you're not associated, you're just a fan. But if you're in it and you're making millions of dollars a year in the NBA, what are you doing throwing your career away, betting on yourself or betting on another team to lose when you could possibly affect it? It just kind of baffles me that, these guys would throw away their careers for something silly, Luke, like you said, which was chump change to these guys that are making millions.
Well, to me, it's like, it's one of those things that's hard for me to kind of figure out, because at the same time, these leagues are promoting all these different up and coming gambling operations. And so, gambling, it's addicting. You look around, I'm sure somebody that's probably thrown away racks upon racks and just lost it all. And so when you got these athletes that are, playing on these courts and playing on these fields that have these sponsorship, DraftKings, so use this promo, it's just like, it's addicting for them. And I want to say that it's dumb and idiotic for you to bet on yourself, but at the same time, I don't understand why the league is sitting here promoting these apps, promoting these different kind of resources for their players to use. And it's a double-edged sword for me. I think it's awful if you're going to sit there and gamble on the sport that you play and that you might have information on. But at the same time, if you're the NFL or the NBA, don't promote it. I don't know. That's my opinion.
You both make great points, and I really loved your perspective as a student athlete, Griffin, getting that insight on just, especially your talk about the integrity of the game, and just hearing your natural competitiveness is cool. As someone who loves sports and loves the true authenticity of it and that true human element of man versus man, that's part of the reason that professional sports as a whole doesn't have as big of a grip on me as college sports, because in college, you're still really fighting for something. And even without the addition of gambling, professional sports, you're playing for a franchise. It is kind of your job. And there is a little bit of that edge that's lost, that raw competitiveness. It's just so interesting to see athletes fall down this trap of gambling. And obviously they shouldn't be allowed to do it. But I think part of the issue too is the leagues are not being proactive about regulating it at all, because they know all their players are doing it. And it's the type of thing where it's like an RA. If they don't see you doing it, you're not doing it. And so that's kind of the whole approach that the leagues are taking right now to the issues, because they know a lot of their players are involved in these things, and it's going to be hard to regulate. And so I don't really know exactly what they can do or what they need to do. But also there's a part of me too that's like, if you have insider information, why not? Why are we cheering for the house? The house should lose. Take away their money. But some real quick WNBA stuff before we cut it to a break. Also to news with the U.S. national team. Kawhi Leonard has stepped down from his U.S. team spot for the Olympics. Derek White will be taking that roster spot. And then in the WNBA, Asia Wilson just continues to amaze. 24 points and 20 rebounds. That's her first 2020 game. Just ridiculous. And this is right after she's announced as a joint cover athlete for the 2K25 game with Jason Tatum. So just really incredible run from her. And then Angel Reese, first WNBA rookie to win Player of the Week honors. But with that, we got some U.S. soccer and potentially world soccer talk if we have time on the other side of the break. Something about Mr. Greg Berhalter Stay tuned. You're listening to WUTK 90.3, The Rock.
I'm gonna set this stuff in.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Wow, what do we lace here? We're going to put the computer or something.
I guess so. Or the TV monitor, I think, is there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Well, good, that gives me more room.
Certainly ain't complaining either. I didn't need it.
Thank you. Set this here. Can I see this real quick? Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see if the program is. Okay, yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Making a monetary donation to the station or by supporting our many fantastic businesses and organizations who donate to underwriting sponsor programming on the Rock. Whenever you hear us thanking our underwriters, know they have made a commitment to support WUTK.
That chair right there, it always sinks down on you. If you put, you probably keep it down low anyway. And I try to pick it up and it sinks down.
If not for their support and yours, we would not be able to bring these citizen music and programming that no one else has on the local airwaves for over 40 years. Remember, if you support our sponsors and underwriters, we're supporting WUTK and local radio. 5 years, for over 40 years, thanks to you. Thank you.
Volunteer Radio receives support from Tennessee Smokies Baseball, the AA Southern League affiliate of the Chicago Cubs, whose 2024 regular season schedule features games against Chattanooga, Birmingham, Rocket City, and others at Smokies Stadium in Kodak. The next homestand is versus Rocket City, Friday, July 19th through Sunday, July 21st. SmokiesBaseball.com. WUTK's Rock Solid Sports will keep you up to date with Smokies Baseball Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 7 p.m. SmokiesBaseball.com, and a link is at WUTKRadio.com.
90.3 Rock is the 2024 football balls will play home games inside Elan Stadium against SEC rivals Florida, Alabama, Kentucky, and others. The link is WUTKRadio.com. UT Student Ticket. It's at BigOrangeTix.utk.edu. 90.3 Rock says, go balls. Knoxville, be sure to tune in Wednesday nights from 8 until 10 for the alternative, featuring 2 hours of the best in Americana music. Station that first brought Knoxville music 5 days from back in the old country days, like Queen of Red, The Blast, the Jayhawks, Uncle Tupelo and Jason and the Scorchers, the 90s Americana, like the Big Boys, Whiskey County, Gillian Welch, Wilco and others. Modern-day Americana musicians like Marco Price, Zach Bryan, Tyler Gilbert, Kurt Wright, Jr. and Charlie Crockett. Still also big classic Americana like Pacific Williams, like Frito Brothers and the Birds, and there's local Americana by Artie Morris, Bruce Church, Trisha G. Brady, a DP artist and others. It's always Patsy Cline and Nine and James's story, Blizzard and Cards, and upcoming Americana concerts in the area. So, if Americana music makes your musical talk TikTok, tune in Wednesday nights at 8 3 alternative. Blizzard and Bliss Home, and only on 90.3 The Rock Kids College of Rock.
This is Leslie Wood.
This is Tommy Womack.
This is Carrie Rodriguez.
Teamed up with special sauce.
This is Dr. You're listening to 90.3.
90.3. 90.3 The Rock.
The Rock.
Who the hell is that? Howard Stern?
Welcome to the only sports show in Knoxville with the home field advantage. You're listening to Rock Solid Sports, presented by 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock. Here's tonight's host.
Welcome back into Rock Solid Sports. It's your Wednesday night edition. We were just talking some NBA, but now we're flipping it to U.S. soccer. Big news on that front. Greg Berhalter officially out as the U.S. men's national coach. A long and strenuous tenure for fans of U.S. soccer, dotted by a miserable crash out of the group stages of Copa America, and a group that included Panama, Uruguay, and I'm blanking the last one. If either of you two on the stream remember who the last member of the group is, help me out.
I just know the United States lost to the other two teams, and miserable is an understatement. I mean, the way that Team USA suffered losses in Copa America and struggled to build upon the international appearances that they had been trying to build upon with the increase in talent, it's just absurd, considering that the missed World Cup several years back was supposed to be the low point, but this was the nail in the coffin for Berhalter. And I'm not going to pretend like I am a soccer expert. I know, Dom, you're a resident soccer guru, and I'm definitely just a casual, but I love cheering for Team USA sports. I love cheering for the U.S. national team. There's something about rallying together a nation, especially in soccer. And it just seems like even though soccer isn't a priority in the United States, the U.S. men's national team has fallen short a number of different times. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the talent of the team is growing. The talent is there. It's just a matter of strategy and the coaching so that this team can actually achieve something, because in recent memory, this team hasn't been able to do so.
Well, I just know that, every time, I know this is Copa, but every time we would play during the World Cup, I can remember 2012, 2016, all those years, I can remember just rallying around the U.S. soccer team. And I've never played, I've never, consistently followed soccer, but I'll tell you, I know that a lot of American soccer fans are very happy about Berhalter kind of making his exit. I think they think this is long overdue after this pretty horrendous performance in the Copa America tournament. You exit first round. It's beyond subpar, and I think that we need to bring somebody else in, because there's some talent on this team, and flat out Greg Berhalter is not getting it done. So something needed to change, and I think a lot of American soccer fans are very happy about this.
Absolutely. I mean, I personally am extremely happy about this. I think that Berhalter was just not leading us in the right direction. Like you said, it is a lot to do with the fact that we have perhaps the most talent that the American soccer team has ever had, just throughout their entire history. I mean, we have almost our entire roster playing in European top leagues. So just having that level of talent and then having this lack of fight, playing for draws, playing for just protecting a 1-goal lead, it's not exciting soccer, and it wasn't soccer that was benefiting us. And the main complaint that fans have had too is that the team's identity has shifted. Back when we were this smaller nation with not as much talent, there was a level of fight there. There's a level of pride. Players who were American soccer players, it was a unique thing to be an American soccer player, because you're the best athlete at what you do in your country, yet you are not recognized by the people of your country. So there's a level of pride that they're playing to be even recognized by their people. And that it's just not there anymore. The American soccer team has been extremely lackluster, and the lack of leadership at the top has been horrible. So Berhalter out is the first step in the right direction. There needs to be an entire culture shift with that national team, especially because the World Cup 2026, it's coming to the United States, and we have to do well in that.
Yeah, the U.S. is the host country for the next World Cup, and that's exciting, especially because it seemed like the United States, with all of the hype around the roster, was heading into the right direction. Dom, you said it, every one of these guys, or majority of these guys, they're playing in Europe, they're playing in top leagues. There's guys in the Premier League, which is said to be, the deepest league talent-wide in the world. And so when that's the case, you got to try and find somebody or a group of individuals that can lead those guys. I think that's the missing piece, like you said, and that's the step in the right direction. It's just tough to see that, in Copa America, which was a big tournament, nationally televised, gets people back into soccer, the European Championship going on at the exact same time, and they're unable to make any noise. And you brought up the strategy and playing for draws. What I noticed when I watched is just the time of possession was so unbalanced, and it wasn't in the United States' favor. It's almost like they were just playing not to lose instead of playing to win. And in those situations, they lost. And I don't know soccer. I don't really know formations and specific strategies on how to shift. But after watching the European Championships and watching the Netherlands shift at halftime and go on the attack, it was almost like art to watch these European teams shift their strategy. And to see the United States play so passively was just kind of hard to watch.
Sorry to cut you off, but we are just about out of time here and going to turn it over to the alternative hour up next. Stay tuned. You're listening to Volunteer Radio 90.3 The Rock.
Cool. Everything out of the way while I can.